All right, this is a story about when we lived in Haiti in 1989, 1990. We went there in July of 1989, and we were learning Haitian Creole. We were working on that, and so gradually we got better. And I think about October of that year, I had my first message in Creole where we were living at Kajak, but the people didn't really understand it that well because I wasn't very fluent. And so I still used an interpreter for my Bible studies, but I was getting better and I started preaching um, in Creole over, November, December. Sometime in December, Pastor Gabriel from LaColline, which was about 40 minutes, 45 minutes from Kajak, where we lived, he invited me to come to LaColline to speak at their annual convention, which was the third week in January. So I was planning to go there, told him I would do that. The time was getting closer after Christmas, and the time was coming, and Pastor Paul Vital, or the Haitian pastor where I was living, he was asking me, um, do you have somebody to come and take you to LaColline when you're speaking at their convention? And I told him, no, I don't. And he was saying, well, you should get somebody, you should get one of the missionaries from Port-au-Prince to come out and take you to LaColline. I did not have a vehicle. I did not drive when we were in Haiti. So, or at least I didn't have a vehicle. And so as the time got closer, Pastor Paul kept asking me, do you have someone coming out from Port-au-Prince to take you to LaColline for the convention? And I told him, no, I don't. And he said, well, you should get someone to come. And I thought, that doesn't make sense to me. Port-au-Prince was 3 hours from where we lived, and to ask someone to drive 3 hours to come out and give me a 40-minute ride just didn't seem very wise. I thought, well, I can go by tap tap. I can go by public transportation, no problem. So he would ask me, how are you planning to go? I said, well, I'm planning to go by public transportation. And he said, you can't. You need to get someone to bring you. I said, no problem. He said, well, what are you going to do when you get off the main road? And it's like three or 4 miles from the main road into the church at Loughlin, and there's not much public transportation there. How are you going to do that? I said, I'll get tap tap going in there, or I'll just walk. I can walk 3 or 4 miles. That won't be a problem. Well, he said it's not good. And so the day came that I was should have gotten someone to come and take you. That's bad. Now here you are. You have no one coming, and what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to take public transportation. Well, he said that's not going to work. You can't do that. He said, I'll take you on my moped. He had a little moped. It really wasn't even a motorcycle. It was just kind of a uh, glorified bike with a little motor on it. And so he told me what time to be at his house. He said, we'll go to Lachlan. So I got down to his house at the appointed time and was ready to go. And I looked at his moped, and there was a seat there, like a bicycle seat, and behind that there was a metal rack to put things on, to strap things on. And so I asked him, Pastor, where do I sit? And he said, well, you sit on the metal rack behind the seat. Okay, so I got on the metal rack, and I had no place to put my feet. And I said, Pastor, where do I put my feet? And he said, oh, you just hold your legs out. And there was the axle bolt that stuck out a little bit on each side of the wheel. And so I asked him, can I put my feet on the axle bolt? And he said, no, you can't do that. You're going to get your foot in the spokes and break your leg and wreck the bike. No, you can't do that. Just hold your legs out. I said, well, I can't hold my legs out that long. I can't hold my legs out for 45 minutes. It's going to take us an hour to get there on this bike, and maybe even more. And I can't hold my legs out that long. He said, okay, well, when your legs get tired, then you tap me on the back, and then I'll stop and you can rest. Okay. And he said, now there's another complication, and that is when I ride my bike, my moped, the wind gets in my eyes and my eyes water and I can't see where I'm going. So he said I borrowed my wife's glasses and to keep the wind out of my eyes. But he said the problem is my wife's glasses are too strong. I can't really see through them. So he said, but if I put my wife's glasses down on the end of my nose, then I can look over her glasses and drive. And then when my eyes start to water, then I can put my head up and I can look under her glasses and drive. And that way we'll be okay. I went, all right. So we set off. There we go down the road. I'm on the back holding my legs out. He's on the front driving. He's looking over his glasses until his eyes would start to water. Then he'd look under his wife's glasses, and there we would go. We went down the road. I would tap him on the back, would stop, and I'd get off and walk around. Oh, the further we went, the more sore my leg got. Finally, we got to where we got off the main road, and we have these 3 or 4 miles into the on the dirt road, which was a rough road, a lot of potholes and stuff, and wow, that was rough, and my legs would get tired more often because we're bouncing, and it was harder to hold my legs out. So we were stopping more and more often. Plus, I was getting more and more tired. So finally, I was walking around one time, rubbing my legs, resting. I said, Pastor, I can walk as fast as we're going. Why don't you let me walk and then uh, I'll just walk the rest of the way. He said, no, you can't do that. Like, it's very important for the speaker to ride into the churchyard. So people see that you didn't come on foot, you came riding in because you're the guest speaker. It's not appropriate for you to walk in. I said, yeah, I'll walk. And then just before we get to the church, I'll get on the bike and we'll ride into the churchyard and everybody be happy. No, no, no. He said that's not going to work. He says people that live all the way along this road that are going to be at the church tonight, and they need to see you riding all the way. If they see you walking now, that's not going to be good. That's not going to work. Okay. So I got back on the bike and eventually we got to the church and went to Pastor Gabriel's house. We had a Coke with Pastor Gabriel, a little refreshment. And then we went to the service and now I'm sitting up on the platform in the church. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Maybe the reason he wanted me to have someone come and pick me up and bring me out here wasn't so that I would have a ride. Maybe it was so that I would have an interpreter because here I am. I speak at our church in Kajak, but people there, they speak to me every day and they're used to the way I talk. But here, I don't talk to these people in LaColline every day. They don't know the mistakes I make. They can't understand my accent. So maybe the reason he wanted me to have a driver was more so that I would also have an interpreter. But I looked at the church and I thought, well, there's not too many people here. It should be okay. It's not too bad. Um, but people kept coming and they had an hour of singing and more people came and more people came. And they had an hour of testimonies and people doing special songs. And more people were coming and more people were coming. And then the third hour, they had choirs and chorales singing. More and more people were coming. After 3 hours, when it was about time for me to preach, there were probably 500 or 600 people in the church. And I'm sitting on the platform, and now I was really worried because I'm like, I this is really bad. Like I'm going to make a fool out of myself in front of more people at one time than I ever had before. This is terrible. These people are not going to understand me, and this is not going to work. And I started doing some serious praying. I was like, God, like you have to help me. Like, oh Lord, what did I get myself into? I was so foolish, and you have to help me here. Like, do something. And because this was a very important service. It was their annual convention. It's a big deal. Lots of people come from other churches, and the Haitian preachers, they are phenomenal. They have a style of preaching that is just so moving. You think of they have sort of repetitive responsive style. They have one point and their one theme, and then they circle around to that. Very effective. In Hijack at one of our conventions, the theme was from the verse where the angels came into Sodom to rescue Lot and his family. And when they got them out of the city, they in the English Bible it says "escape for your life," but in the Creole Bible it uses an idiom, a Creole idiom that says "sauve pulu," which means "save your chickens," and it basically means run for your life. And so, oh, the pastors they came and they preached on that subject and that theme. And one night there was a pastor there, and he was really preaching, and he come back to that theme, save your chickens. And at the beginning of the message, he would say, save your chick, and the people would say chickens all together. Then later on in his message, he would say, save your, and the people would say chickens. And then eventually, toward the end of the message, he would say, save, and the people would say, save your chickens. And by the time he was done with his message, all he had to do was just say, set, and the people would say, save your chickens altogether. And after that service, one of the older ladies came up to me and she said, oh, Pastor Merle, the other nights were good, but tonight we had revival. And it's the kind of speaking that just connects with your emotions, with your mind, and it's very effective. Well, I don't. That's a different style of speaking for me. My theme that night was from the story where Jesus healed the man by the pool, and his question was, "Do you want to be well?" That was my phrase, and that was my point, my main point. But I didn't know if I could do it effectively and if the people would even understand me. So I got up and I had my message, and when I was done, some of the old people came up to me, people that would have had the most trouble understanding me, and they said, "Oh, Pastor, that was a good message. We understood every word you said." And I just knew that God had helped the people to understand what I was saying. Now it was maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. It was dark. And I'm thinking, okay, now we're going to have to take this moped and do that ride back to my house in the dark. And this is probably really why Pastor Paul wanted me to get somebody to take me over there, because he knew that public transportation doesn't run after dark. And if I could get over there on public transportation and I could walk part of the way, but how was I going to get home? And even for me to walk the whole distance, which would have been 10 or 12 miles, probably would have been unsafe for me to do at night. And besides, there were no cell phones. I wouldn't have had any, I could have stayed there overnight, but I wouldn't have any way of letting my family know that I wasn't coming back that night. So that was probably the real reason he wanted me to have somebody come and take me. But I'm thinking now we have to do this bike ride at night. Well, after the service, Pastor Gabriel is a very wise and gracious man. I've seen him in so many situations where he is just able to influence a crowd of people and a group of people, and he's so tactful and so gracious. Pastor Gabriel had a truck. So after the service, Pastor Gabriel said, Pastor Merle, I have never seen you drive. If we would put the bike in the back of my truck, would you be willing to show me how you drive? I said, yes, Pastor. I would be willing to show you how I drive. So we put the bike in the back of his truck, and Pastor Gabriel didn't drive, but he had a driver. So it was Pastor Gabriel and his driver, and Pastor Paul, myself. And we drove out the gravel road. We got out to the main road. And when we got to the main road, Pastor Gabriel said, no, Pastor Merle, I've seen how you drive on a back road, on a gravel road, but I've never seen you drive on a main road. Would you be willing to show me how you drive on the main road and take me back to your house? And I said, Of course, pastor. Yes, I can show you how to I drive on a main road. And so I showed him how I drive on a main road. And we got back to my house. We unloaded the bike, and his driver took him home. It was a reminder to me that even though we do things that we don't understand how foolish they are, God has ways of redeeming those things. He has ways of helping us. And it was a reminder to me that Pastor Gabriel could have given me a lecture. He could have told me how foolish I was for coming there on that bike and not having a way home after dark. He could have let me know that. But instead of that, he didn't shame me. He very graciously just wanted to know if I would show him how I drive. And of course, I was very glad to do that.